Our product is awesome. We love our product. Obviously, we know we're biased, but we feel like we do have the best acai out there.
What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are people saying about us? What are we hearing in our organization? What does our culture look like? It's really kind of stepping into it in all senses and gaining really crystal clear clarity on just what your business looks like.
We've done this multiple times. We just haven't done it for ourselves. So let's do it for ourselves. Honestly, God opened up some doors for us to do exit in multiple, we end up selling in like 3 or 4 different chunks. I'm all about overcoming obstacles, and it's like that first hurdle, it's like you can't just run up that hurdle and be like, oh, I can't get over it. It's like, no, you're going to have about 10 more hurdles to go over in this process. So you better get used to it. When I'm bringing an acai concept to Indianapolis, Indiana, I get the pick of the litter when it comes to real estate. So spend the money on the really good real estate and watch what happens. When I build something, I instantly think, who's going to run this? I'm the vision guy. Who can I trust to partner with to run this? That was definitely the lesson that we learned was you are going to get knocked down. You're going to get put on the floor. Everybody does it. Mike Tyson got knocked out. All of the best fighters get knocked down. But what are you going to do on the other side of it is what's important. I didn't want to tell him, but God was just like, say it. And I was like,
Alex's business partner is with former NFL Hall of Famer quarterback Drew Brees in opening a whopping 150 franchise locations across the country. Now, this is really an epic podcast episode, whether you are a franchise buyer, franchisee, or Zor. We dove into how Alex built up a 32 location wireless store franchise portfolio, how he financed them, and eventually had a successful exit. Now, he could have sailed off into the sunset, but instead he owns 8 different businesses, with one of them being an area representative for the franchise Everbowl, who, with already 40 franchise locations secured out of the 150 they committed to opening. So we dove into what an area representative is, how that works, as well as dove into the details of how he structured and negotiated his agreement, and how he was able to get into a lot of his businesses with $0 of his own personal money, along with how he finds operating partners to run some of the businesses that he has. So this is really just an epic episode with a serious mover and shaker, not just in the franchise world, but in the business world in general. Now, if you want to buy a franchise in the next 12 months, you should check out my free franchise masterclass at franchiseempire.com/masterclass. And if you want to work with me and my team on finding or buying a franchise or resale business, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, and you can schedule a free call to see what's available in your area. The link is also in the description below. Now, with that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and building your empire doesn't happen overnight. My name is Tarek Johnson, and owning franchises is what helped me go from employee to employer and start building my empire for my family. So this podcast is for you, the empire builders. For those of you who want to build something that stands the test of time. This is for those of you who are crazy enough to believe that you can make the dream in your head come to life. This podcast is all about bringing you real people who are building real empires so you can get inside their mind and heart and get proven strategies and actionable insights that will catapult you to build, grow, and scale your empire. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Franchise Empire Show. I'm excited to be here with Alex Yater, who is someone that I've been following sporadically on social media, kind of watching his journey. This is the first time that we're actually having a live conversation. So I'm excited to, unpack things and kind of learn more about your journey and, what exactly you're doing live. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you. I love your content. It's some of my favorite content on social media, and when it comes to franchising, I think it'll be cool to see where you get it to, because I love the way that you talk about, hey, what's it cost to start a Dunkin's? What's it cost? Like, you break it down in a way that really can grab people's attention, and As we talked a little bit, like we're both kind of obsessive with franchising. So I'm just excited to talk to, you know, you can't just like go talk to your neighbor about franchising. Like they're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? So yeah, I'm just excited to chat.
Yeah, likewise, man. The feeling's mutual. So, okay, so let's create the frame around what it is that you do. What are you involved in from the lens of franchising? And you have some pretty significant partnerships, like with Drew Brees. So, just give us a framework of what it is that you do and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. So we're with Everbowl. Everbowl is an emerging brand in the acai space. Currently have Everbowl has 90 locations. We are franchise owners. So we own multiple franchise locations with Everbowl, but then we are also area representatives. And area representatives are, as you know, they used to be called master franchises. So we bought territory, 13 states worth, and we have a 150 store commitment. So we're really we kind of sit in between the franchisor and the franchisee, and we're a franchise development organization. Right now, the only brand that we're repping is Everbowl, and that's our main focus. But eventually, we want to get into other brands as well. But yeah, we sit in that spot and walk people all the way through the franchise development process. After the discovery day, after they sign the franchise agreement, we actually continue to work with them in the real estate part. We help them with the construction, site selection, give them some feedback on the lease negotiations. Then when it's time to open their store, they actually come to our headquarters in Noblesville, Indiana for training. And then my team actually goes out for grand opening week. And then we also have a team of franchise business coaches that supports them along the way. So it's a lot of fun. I love the franchisees that I get to work with. They're just a special group of people, and we're learning a lot along the way. We're 2 years into this process, and yeah, it's just been a blast.
That's cool, man. And so, I guess, somewhat funny story about Everbowl that I'll share in a minute. But being an area rep, kind of AKA master, you're basically a franchisor within
Right.
a franchisor, right?
Right. Yeah, I like to say that we get to be the franchisor without all of the hard part of franchising. Like I'm not developing the FDD. I'm not, like the detailed not that it's boring stuff, but it's like it's high intensive, not exciting stuff to me. Like we're not touching that, right? And we obviously made a significant investment to buy the territories that we did, but it's nothing like the type of investment that you need to start a franchise and to build a franchise. So
Yeah. So okay, so here's what's funny. So my first franchise was a Robex, a juice and smoothie
yeah,
place, and our first location was in Wildemar, California.
okay,
And so, about, I don't know, we were maybe a year in, maybe less than a year in. I know we had already moved to Florida at this point. Um, and an Everbowl opened across the street
oh
from
no,
us. And I remember like having like a week of like sleepless nights. One, I was just a very inexperienced entrepreneur. This was really my first major gig. Everything else I had done uh, were miserable failures. Or I threw in the towel because things got too challenging.
yeah,
And so, and I promised my wife that we wouldn't fail after taking 300 grand out of our home. And so I was like, is this going to put us out of business? What's going to happen? Is there, because our area didn't really meet the demographic, the requirements that the franchisor had, but it was a booming area. So I thought, year one, I don't know, we may not make money. I have no idea. But by year three, I felt like we would do pretty good. So that was like my initial exposure
yeah,
to Everbowl, keeping me awake at night.
yeah. I'll have to talk to Jeff Fenster, the founder, because that was probably pre-franchising day. So that was probably one of their original corporate stores or something back in the day. So that's awesome.
Yeah, because that was around 2018. That
Oh
was
yeah,
around 2018. Yeah.
yeah. They started franchising in 2020. So yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yep.
got it. So our team have looked into a few hundred franchises and put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more and that have a proven track record of both happy and profitable franchisees. So if you have a net worth of at least $150,000 and you want to see if the territory that you want is still available for any of these franchises, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right, let's get back to the episode. And I think, so I went to an event that Bedros Keuilian had, and I think Dan Fleischman said that he owns that location now because he bought the corporate stores.
Yeah, he did. He actually just recently sold them back to corporate Everbowl. Dan's still involved with Everbowl in multiple different layers. But yeah.
Interesting.
Dan's incredible.
Yeah, so I want to go down that thread a little bit later in the conversation because I want to pack a little bit more about kind of how the whole area rep things work, because I feel like there's a lot of people that don't even know that that's really a thing in franchising or how it works.
Right.
But just a stake to plant in the conversation for later is it's fascinating how you guys get these, big names really to be involved in the brand, because although people listening may have no idea who Dan Fleischman is, he's huge in the internet marketing, kind of online, marketing world, and considered like one of the OGs, in that space, and is a huge name. So generally speaking, if someone hears that he's involved with something, it brings a certain level of credibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the interesting part with, like, for Drew, for example, Drew was a customer, right? He lives in San Diego and was a shopper of Everbowl, and eventually just got connected to Jeff Fenster, and they started to talk. And Jeff asked him to come in and invest in Everbowl, and the relationship just started as him being a customer, right? So it wasn't any like high level backdoor relationship or anything like that. It was, he loved the product. That's a common thread with Drew, right? He wants to make sure he loves the product or whatever service that they're doing. And then the founder is really key for what Drew, and it should be for everybody, but that's really key for Drew. But yeah. And then most recently, Jason Tatum. I honestly, like, you mentioned it and I should know. I don't know the origin story on Jason Tatum. So I need to find that out, and I'll have to circle back with you on how they got connected with Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum's opening 5 stores in Boston. So his first one is going to be later this year. He's, busy, conquering the world with the Avengers right now, but winning NBA titles, and then going to hopefully go win a gold medal for our country. But yeah, we do have some really, really cool partnerships. And I think it comes from our product is awesome. We love our product. Obviously we know we're biased, but we feel like we do have the best acai out there. But Jeff Fenster is just absolutely incredible, man. And he is, he's built his success off of relational equity, and he just gives, and he rarely asks for anything. So so often people are just coming him and asking to be a part of what he's building, because he's different, right? And that's the way I like to operate. I like to operate with high level of integrity and just to give. And I'm going to get burnt from time to time, but honestly, I'm not really concerned about it. And then, for me, the way that I view it is like, I'm a Christian, man. And I feel like if I'm running business and leadership and just pouring it and just giving to people, that, God's going to take care of me on the other side, and with opportunities. And that's what's happened for me. And I see that at a very high level for Jeff and the multiple things that he's built and what he's continuing to build.
Wow, that's really awesome. Yeah, it's it is hard to operate. I guess it can be challenging sometimes to operate with that level of giving first, right? Knowing that there's some times where you might get burned, but just doing the right thing. It's funny because I recently took a step back. Have you ever heard of Vivid Vision?
No, I don't think so.
So, have you heard the name Cameron Harold? He was the COO of 1-800 Got Junk.
No, I know 1-800 Got Junk, but yeah.
So he helped, along with Brian Scudamore, who was a CEO and founder, build them into a huge brand. And so Cameron Harold wound up writing a book called Vivid Vision. And basically, what it is it's this process of really stepping 3 years out into your business
Nice.
with really like this 3D perspective of what does it look like? What does it feel like? What are people saying about us? What are we hearing in our organization? What does our culture look like? It's really kind of stepping into it in all senses and gaining really crystal clear clarity on just what your business looks like. And so I recently, while we're up here in the mountains, I took a half day and sat out on the porch, just out in nature with the birds chirping. And I did this for our business, for Franchise Empire. And, I came up with this vision statement because as you may have seen or know that there's some weird stuff in the franchise game. Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
some people
absolutely.
doing it right, but there's been bad apples in all industries. But I don't know. I feel like I've seen a good amount of people that are just kind of in it for themselves in the franchise space. And so I came up with a mission like we want to become the most trusted
Good.
authority on
Yes.
franchising. Trusted being the key word. And it's forcing us to make some pivots in the way that we do things where we may not come across as the most trusted. And they're not easy decisions, but what you were saying, it kind of reminded me of that. But let's pivot back to the area representative deal and all those things. So, number one, what did you do before that? Like, how did you get to the point
Yeah.
of becoming an area rep?
Yeah. So 20 years of in the Verizon wireless industry. The first 10 years was as an employee for different organizations. They were typically franchises or sub agents, they were called. And I helped a couple of organizations grow from, a couple of stores to 30 stores, a couple of stores to 50 stores. And it was at that point that my business partner, Mitch, who is still my business partner. I think we have like 8 or 9 different businesses that we're partners in, but we're partners in everything that we do. It was 11, 12 years ago. Mitch and I started talking about like, hey, we've done this multiple times. We just haven't done it for ourselves. So let's do it for ourselves. And we started, we called it Conway Communications. And he opened the first 2 stores. When he had the opportunity to get the third store, he brought me in. We took that company from 3 stores to 32 stores at our largest. And then we ended up selling them all a couple of years ago. So we were with an organization called Wireless Zone, which is, just a absolute gold standard in franchising. Great organization. Wireless Zone was purchased by a company that's local in Indiana called Moorhead Communications. And Moorhead owned Verizon stores. So they kind of had 2 different arms. They had a sub agent program and they had a franchise program. Mitch and I were early adapters, and we switched over to the franchise model early. And there was a lot of pain points with doing that. But by doing that, that allowed, like, Wireless Zone really had our back with bringing us deals and opportunities to buy. So in that time, we realized we were the go givers. We were, if there was, we were just always available to share, because there was a lot of the owners were 10 to 15 years older than us, and nobody shared information. It was like they just protected, they felt like they had secret sauce, on what they were doing. And Mitch and I just was sharing, and we started to like just build community really across the Midwest with other Verizon owners. But in that, everybody knew if you were going to sell your store to call Alex first, because I was going to be the best to deal with. I was going to give them a fair offer. We were going to honor them. We were going to take care of their employees. And Mitch and I grew those 32 stores. 80-90% of it was through acquisitions. We were buying other people, a lot of owner finance. It's funny because like people talk about owner financing and seller financing now. Mitch and I were doing that for 10 years, but we actually didn't know it was the cool thing to do. We just didn't have any money, you know? So we did a lot of multi-million dollar deals, multi-state deals, we did a lot of big stuff that, to be completely transparent, we were not qualified to do, but it worked out really, really well. We were really good at leading people and selling phones. You know what I mean? So we could build
Wow.
teams, we could recruit. We had sayings like we called ourselves Team Conway, and we used to say at Team Conway, the weekends start on Thursday. Because when you're in college, the weekend starts on Thursday. So we kind of had that mentality of like, man, we're going to start celebrating Thursdays like it's Friday. So we had a 4-day weekend every weekend. So like we would do fun stuff. And we started a thing called Fresh Kick Friday, where on Fridays, our team would wear like their freshest kicks and share the pictures. We would give out awards who had the best shoes. So we just we slaughtered the competition with our culture and grew
Wow.
really big. So we were the employer of choice. Everybody, people wanted to come work with us. So it was a lot of fun. We had a great run. But then we started to see that it was during the COVID year. We were concerned about the future of the franchise world within Verizon. Just how much was Verizon going to force our hand to make decisions that maybe we didn't align with? And
Mm.
honestly, God opened up some doors for us to do exit and in multiple. We end up selling in like 3 or 4 different chunks. And it was earlier than what we were expecting, but yeah, we made that exit, and we knew after that exit, we knew that we literally didn't know what we were going to do, which we don't advise, but we knew that we couldn't pass on those opportunities. And I was looking for an emerging brand in franchising. So I looked at Crumble Cookie, but Crumble Cookie was like the rocket ship was loaded and ready to take off, right? So like by the
Mm.
time I went there and I was like, hey, I hear you guys are this up and coming brand. What about, Hamilton County, Indiana? And they're like, it's sold out. And I was like, oh man. So that was like, and then now, Crumble went from, this to this in no time. So I went on a mission trip in LA, had my first acai bowl, become obsessed with acai. A couple weeks later, on Eric Van Horn had Jeff Fetzer. Eric Van Horn's a mentor of mine. He's actually helped guide us through a lot of these decisions. He's been wise counsel for us through a lot of these decisions. And yeah, got connected to Everbowl with the idea of opening 4 or 5 stores. And in that process, I talked to Jeff and I was like, Jeff, I know a lot of my friends are going to want to buy Everbowl stores. How could we work this out that I'll sell them on this side of the country for you? And they had just got a deal done with selling Texas as an area representative deal. And he's like, hey, we've already got this structure. So Mitch and I bought Tennessee, and we sold 11 of the 15 locations in the first 45 days. So then we're like, all right, let's buy Virginia Beach. So we bought Virginia Beach, and we have a couple there that basically bought the entire market. And then it was in all of that is when we met Drew, pitched him on the idea of doing 11 more states. And it's just really kind of taken off from there.
Wow, that's incredible. So how do you structure a deal like that? What does that look like in terms of at least what you're willing or feel comfortable to share?
Yeah. So I always kind of start one of the things I'm really passionate about is and I've got a buddy local here that we do some coaching and consulting together. So we help a lot of people buy businesses. I'm really passionate about helping to break down the intimidating barriers of buying a business or buying a franchise. And just like Cody Sanchez says, don't start a business, buy a business, right? And whenever I kind of start a partnership or a negotiation, I just look at it 50-50, and then you just kind of move it from there, right? So what we did in this situation is we asked Drew and his team to put the money up to buy the stuff. And then we said we would be willing to lead the team, do the work, drive the franchise sales without taking any money until the debt's been paid back, right? Because Mitch and I knew we had money from our Verizon sale. So that's how we structured the deal. And then obviously we've hired people to help with, the real estate, the construction, the franchise business coaching, the training, all that stuff.
Oh, wow, interesting. So you guys didn't have to pay a huge chunk for the rights.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we
Oh,
did.
you did.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other side of the partnership, which is Drew and a couple of his buddies, it's called Boilermaker Ventures. They're the ones that put the money up for that. And then Mitch and my side, we're, for lack of better terms, they put the money up and we're doing the heavy lifting of the work, right? So we're like the operating partner of the partnership. So
Wow, interesting. Very, very cool. It goes back to the phrase of it's not about the resources, it's about your resourcefulness. And it
yeah,
sounds like
absolutely.
what I'm hearing through your story is that y- you have a habit and a pattern of being incredibly resourceful.
Yeah,
Wh-
I mean, absolutely. It's like I I always when I run into people that are like first know people, it's always frustrating to me, meaning like it's like, "Hey, I want to open up this coffee shop, but, I don't know how I'm going to do this." So they just kind of stop pursuing it, right? Where it's like, "Well, no, like just overcome that obstacle," right? I always say just pray and seek wise counsel, right? So it's like, "Oh
Mm.
man, I don't know how to get funding to buy this business." It's like, "Okay, go seek wise counsel. Go find people that have done that before," right? Like we live in an age where literally anything, right? And how do I get funding? Oh, I need an accountant. I need a lawyer to help with this documentation. I don't have down payment money for my loan. It's like, okay, let's build something and go out there and raise money for the down payment on this loan and let's go buy this business, right? Like, so yeah, absolutely. I'm all about overcoming obstacles and it's like that first hurdle, it's like you can't just run up that hurdle and be like, "Oh, I can't get over it." It's like, no, you're going to have about 10 more hurdles to go over in this process. So you better get used to it. So yeah.
Hey, so if you want to figure out if you should buy a franchise and learn the fastest and easiest way to figuring out the best franchise to buy and everything you need to know about the process, then you'll want to go get access to our Franchise Buyers Academy. In our Franchise Buyers Academy, you'll get a behind the scenes look into specific franchises and exactly how much money they are making. You'll get simple formulas for finding money making franchises and a blueprint on how to scale them into a franchise empire that can be sold for a lot of money later on. You'll be able to finally answer the question on, should I buy a franchise? Now you can get access at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Now let's get back to the episode. Man, that's awesome. So that kind of bleeds in a little bit into, so you guys structured the deal. You started out in specific markets, help finding franchisees for those different markets, and then just to be clear, so then your role is to then support those franchisees. Those franchisees aren't going to Everbowl for support, right? They're going
Correct.
directly to you guys, and you guys are that middleman kind of under
Yeah,
that arrangement.
I like to say we kind of co-parent there, right? Because Everbowl has a very hefty team. They've got 20, 25 employees, even for 100 stores. Obviously, that's pretty large for a franchise
Wow.
organization. So they are loaded with operational marketing, right? So we are kind of the first layer, right? But then we really lean on them a lot for the knowledge. And I mean, and they brought in people from Jamba and other really amazing brands to build out the team.
Yeah, sounds like Jeff was quite smart in the way that he did everything. Like really
Well,
pretty genius.
yeah, and it's that was actually the point where so little over 2 years ago, we bought, I think 5 or 6 states, and then Jeff hired Trevor Sacco to come in to be brand president. Trevor has 30 plus years of restaurant experience. He brought in Shelly Ortega, who was at Jamba and a couple other awesome brands to do operations. They brought in a guy named Ed Hoban who has 30 years of retail experience. He used to work for Blockbuster. We love to joke around with him about that. He was like, I could open a Blockbuster anywhere and it would do good, but so he was like the owner of, I always relate everything to basketball. He's like the owner of the of NBA team. Is like, I'm going to hire the best GM, the best coach. We're going to pay the best players. It's like, you're probably going to win if you do that. So when I started to see him do that, I actually reached out to Drew and I was like, man, I think we should double up. And so Drew and I talked about it for, a good 60, 90 days, spent some time praying on it. And we went to Jeff and was like, hey, we would like to buy all these additional states. And we went back to him and negotiated and bought an additional 6 or 7 states. And it was because of what you're talking about. And I had a conversation with Eric Hansen, our chief operating officer. And I was like, man, Eric, because I was seeing, we got our store open and my partner and I were really happy with the profitability, and I'm talking to other franchisees. I mean, at that point, there's like 30 stores. right? I think we might have been store 30, and like 5 of them or 6 of them were franchise locations. The rest of them were corporate. So you didn't really know the profitability, right? But I started talking to the other franchisees, and everybody's pretty happy. Annie out in St. Louis is crushing it. Dave down in Orlando is crushing it. Um, and so I'm talking to the chief operating officer, and I was like, man, Eric, I could see us being at 300 stores in the next 5 years. And he was like, Alex, we're not building this to be at 300 stores. We're building this to be at, 500, 750, 1,000 doors in the next 5-7 years or whatever. And like, I immediately got off the phone. I was like, we got to grab more territory, because they're going to, it's like, I believe that the better for you, the acai, the superfood bowls, and the emerging stuff that we're going to continue to bring to our menu. I believe we're built to last. We are financially stable. Everbowl is, right. So then when you add an all-star team, it's like, that's a recipe of success in franchising. You've seen it over and over, and we do things responsibly. I actually get frustrated that we don't do more outreach for marketing on franchise sales, but like, we are so like, we got to make sure the house is right before we oversell these. Right. So it's like, we're doing this the right way, almost to the point where it's like, no, we actually need to move a little quicker. Right. But I would rather err on the side of doing it the right way. Right. Like, we want awesome stores. We are not just going to approve anything. So it's like, all that. It's like, if I know Everbowl is going to be at 750 stores, why am I going to sit here with a 70 store deal? Right. Like, I'm going to go try to buy some of the best states, and get a large quantity, and, really get after it. So that's been our thought process. And, we feel like it's really paid off. On our side of the country, we have 27 stores open in our 13 states. We have another one opening tomorrow, another one opening Friday, 1 or 2 in August. And then, so we should be at 40 or so by the end of the year. We still don't have item 19, and obviously, how important item 19 is. For strategic reasons, we haven't loaded the item 19. We're going to next year. Everbowl had a lot of those corporate stores. They were sold to a franchisee, bought back, Dan bought them. So like, they've exchanged hands multiple times, and that's a large chunk of the numbers. And also, we've added 25 or 30 stores over the last year and a half that are monsters, dude. Like, prime real estate, it's like, instead of like, oh, what's the cheapest space we can go to that's not going to cost a lot of money, right? It's like, what's the prime real estate in this prime town, right? Because when you're a new concept, it's like, when I'm bringing an acai concept to Indianapolis, Indiana, I get to pick of the litter when it comes to real estate. So spend the money on the really good real estate and watch what happens, right? So as we continue to do that, right, and we continue to grow these stores, it just gets more and more exciting. But I believe next year, when we go with our item 19, I think things are going to go absolutely nuts with franchise sales, because we get groups that come in. So right now it's a lot of mom and pop, 1 store owners, 2 store owners, which I love. I absolutely love. Mayor of the town, they're owner operators. And we're getting some people that are part of large brands, Seven Brew, Culver's, Subway, that they're looking, but it takes a lot of due diligence for a group that big to be able to validate the financials.
Yeah.
And they don't want to put the effort in. Right. But when item 19 comes out, it's going to be a fun time for us.
Yeah. Interesting. And you mentioned that you guys have 8 other businesses, you and your business partner, Mitch. So what other businesses are you involved in, and how the hell do you manage like something of just this magnitude with multiple other businesses?
I'm trying to find, I think I have the book in here. It's Michael Scott. It says Somehow I Manage, Michael Scott's business book, and it's just blank from The Office. But I transparently am inherently lazy, right? And so whenever I build anything, I instantly, and I'll walk you through the example in real time here, because it's just something that my partner and I decided over the weekend. When I build something, I instantly think, who's going to run this? I'm the vision guy. Who can I trust to partner with to run this? Right. when it comes to EB Master, I'm the guy that's running the franchise sales part because I absolutely love it. Like I have an absolute blast. I love learning about it, all that stuff. So in real time, when we sold our Verizon stores, we invested a lot of that of our a lot of our profits into short-term rentals. As we were talking about in Cashers, North Carolina, we're in the Smoky Mountains, Branson. So we have a property management organization that we own. So we own 11 of our own properties, and then we manage properties for other people. That is actually something that we're pouring gasoline on. We our partner. So in that situation, Mitch and I put up the money. We have an operating partner that operates the property management. He's an actual partner, right? So he's getting paid a salary and he's a partner in the organization. We just paid to put him in a really high level mastermind group, and we're going to pour gasoline on just going out and growing. You know, we want to go from managing 13 properties to 30 to 40 properties in the next 12 months or so. So we have property management organization. We own our own Everbowl locations. We currently have 2 Everbowl locations. We've got a 3rd opening in August. We actually just decided over the weekend. I was actually listening to one of Eric Van Horn's podcasts, and he had a guy on. I forget what his name was, but his family owns 95 Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm like, I know I have a pretty good feeling on where Everbowl's going to be. The SBA is really friendly right now. So Mitch and I have decided we're going to sell one of our short-term rentals, take those profits or take that money and go open up 20 Everbowl stores. We're going to leverage SBA. So what do I need? I need an operating partner, right? So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of talking to different people about, hey, you want to come in and get paid well and go open up 20 Everbowl stores, and we'll try to do it a little bit more around Indiana. Indianapolis is pretty much sold out, but there's a couple more spots. And then we'll probably go to like Louisville, Cincinnati, a little bit of Columbus, maybe Dayton. So we'll keep it within 4 or 5 hours of us. So that's the how. I always just find an operating partner. We own coaching consulting business. We have a travel van, which that was like, it's like a Mercedes-Benz travel van. I have 4 sons, 20, 18, 16, and 6, and we love to travel. And my kids are just too big to all fit in an SUV. So I'm like, man, I wish I had a travel van. Well, man, I can't pay for it. So if we buy it and we rent it out on Outdoorsy, then other people are going to pay for it when we're not using it. So we have a travel van business, and trying to think what else. And then we've got a few other things. I think we're invested in a couple of different startups and stuff like that as well. So yeah.
Man, that's epic. I mean, just juggling all of that is amazing. So I think there's a lot of people out there that, what we see is a couple of different segments in terms of people that are, interested in buying a franchise. You have, the folks that are just, deeply unhappy in their current work. They have a really strong pain point, and they're like, I want to figure out how to become an entrepreneur. And those are more so the people that are super committed, like when there is a will, there's a way kind of mindset. But then there's also this group of people that they're like, nah, man, I have a good amount of flexibility in my work. I work remote. I make good money. I want to build something I own, but like I'm not unhappy at work or miserable at work overall. And so they don't want to take the risk of, leaving their job, going into something full time, and they like the idea of like, it'd be good to have another income on the side. I think a lot of people are just uneducated and not experienced in securing partners or operating partners.
Right.
So walk us through, like, how do you define who you're wanting? How do you go out there and find them? What are you looking for when you're hiring, interviewing? How do you structure compensation with them? Like break that down.
Yeah, all my potential partners are relationships first, right? And a lot of times those relationships, not a lot of times, 100% of the time, those relationships have come from me being a mentor or my family, being there for people, right? So over the last couple of years, I've been doing like small groups at my church where, we really bring in a lot of young entrepreneurs and pour into them. A lot of times I want to try to help them go start a business, right? recently we started, and this is growing, and I encourage um, everybody to do this in their town. We call it Bowls in Business. And the third Tuesday of every month here in Noblesville, from 7, 9 o'clock, we meet at our headquarters. So you need a place to meet up for a couple of hours. Could be a coffee shop, whatever. And we just invite, if you're a business owner, you're a franchise owner, you're a business owner, you want to start a business, you want to invest in a business, you want to sell a business, you want to buy a business, come here. And it's not just networking, right? Like hey, we just launched catering. I've never done catering. How do I get catering out? And we'll break up into small groups. So it's like really intentional, right? But by doing that, I've got 20, 30 people like that are coming every time. And there's guys in that group that I'm like, oh, guys and girls that I've definitely like, oh, I'm talking to one of them about her coming in to be the operator of this like sub Everbowl company that we're building. So that's really the pipeline. But like, yeah, it's, being available to mentor people, being interruptible,
Mm,
being interruptible in your day, because, and letting people know like, hey, yeah, I'd love to give you some time. Right. Like like the majority of my relationships have come through church. It's a lot of great relationships of just talking to people in the hallway of church, like, hey, you want to grab a coffee, that type of thing. We do, Mason and I, my partner in our coaching business, we host a group at a local coffee shop by our church, where all the business owners and leaders of the church, we get together for coffee every Tuesday morning. Right. So it's like, I have all these different groups that I have relationships with lots of people. Right. And all of that stuff that I do, like, I don't make money off of it. Right. It's just relationships,
mm.
relationships, relationships. We do have some coaching, and we do have some that have turned into long-term relationships where we're doing coaching and consulting, but that's not, it's very small stuff.
Wow, interesting. So, someone listening could go, "Oh, well, I don't have the connections that Alex has, and it seems like he has everything figured out." But what stands out to me is that everything, or not, maybe not everything, but a lot of what you've been able to build and accomplish and do is because of the relationships that you've built without trying to get. I
Correct.
mean, being that go giver, and then it's helped to kind of fulfill your vision. Is that
Yep.
what you feel like is accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me when I say, me and my partner Mitch, um, we come from very little, right? What I come from is an extremely strong family, a mom and dad that were pouring into the local church and the local community. We grew up in a town of 300 people, right? Like, I graduated top 20 in my class, but there was only 27 of us in the class, and top 20 was probably borderline. Public school, like, school didn't start till the fair was over. We had 17 people on the football team, right? Like, super small. And you know, we had money, but it wasn't a lot of money, right? Because we had money because we were living in a small farm town. But what I saw my parents do was model: serve your community, serve your church, be a great friend. My family always had a community garden where people could come pick vegetables from, right? Me and my brothers were always out chopping wood for neighbors, mowing yards, hating every minute of it. But as I grow up, I'm like, oh, I get it now. This is serving this is doing the stuff Jesus talks about in the Bible, but you're not saying I'm doing this for Jesus, right? Like, you're going out there being a good person, and you're making an impact in your community. So it's like, I've just taken that with me throughout my life, me and my brothers. Honestly, like, that's just kind of how we lead our lives, because we were born that way. And that's what I'm instilling in my sons. It's really, really important to me that you're a man of God first. You're going to be a great husband. You're going to be a great father. And then you're going to be involved in your community, your church community and your local community. And I would say that I got focused local over the last 3 or 4 years, and that's made a tremendous impact, right? I was, um, I was a little too focused on, like, building relationships kind of nationwide, I guess you would say. And when I started to spend time with the guy that owns the local jewelry store in town, right, or owns the eyeglass place, those relationships go so much deeper when you can meet face to face, and I can refer business to them and they could refer business to me, and you just keep growing that way and growing that way and growing that way. So I would also encourage you to like get local, right? Like get in some
Mm.
local groups. Those groups are absolutely out there. So yeah, you just got to hunt for them. And if they're not there, start it yourself.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it's interesting because there's that phrase proximity is power, right?
Mhm.
Or your net worth is your network. And it,
Yep.
it sounds like what you're doing is really the epitome of that. And yeah, inspiring for me to hear because it's something that hasn't necessarily been a strength of mine. Even despite all the content, I'm a bit of an introvert,
Yeah.
and I like to be by myself. And I like to just like if everyone's talking in a corner, I like to kind of be by myself. And um, so yeah, it's definitely inspired me. It's been on my mind lately. Like, man, I need to start getting more involved in the community in the area. So this conversation is the
Yeah.
catalyst. So just want
Well,
to let you know
and
that.
for you in particular, if you were here in Noblesville, right? Like what I would do is I would start a group with you that's a like for franchise owners, right? So it's like, hey, this is a group for franchise owners to come to meet together, right? Because
Mm.
if we go drive around for 15 minutes, you're going to run into, 50 different franchise brands. You know what I mean? They're everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
So if you just think about it that way, where it's like your plan of attack can be like, I'm going to go to the local, like what's the up and like, let's say that Dirty Dough's in town or their crumble cookies. Like, hey, who's the local franchise owner? Hey, I'm going to start doing franchise meetups. We're going to meet at this coffee shop this coffee shop happens to be a franchise, and like, so kind of starting with the niche community. And I'm sure a lot of the people that are going to be listening are in franchising space or they want to be in franchising. That's a really easy low hanging fruit. And bro, this, there are some people that are crushing it in franchising, right? It's like there's times where it's like, man, yeah, I think I did pretty good. We built this, we built that. And then like there's a guy that lives in town here that owns 50 Culvers. You know what I mean? It's like, what? So
Yeah, those things are like multiple millions to build
yeah,
out.
yeah. And like he's right here, right? It's like, what am I doing? I'm trying to like build a relationship with somebody 7 states away when I could like go be like, hey, bro, can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain? Right? Like
Mm.
you're crushing it in franchising. And those people are in our backyards already.
Yeah, yeah, that's I love it. I love it. I wrote the idea down. I want to pivot to an interesting question, but before that, I noticed on I think the podcast with Eric, you had mentioned that you guys bought what? Okay, so 13 states, but except for Florida and Georgia. What was the reasoning behind that?
Oh, I mean, we wanted it. Everbowl already had a bunch sold in Florida, so it just didn't make sense. And Georgia, they have relocated their sister company, We Build, which builds our furniture and fixtures, and they actually now build furniture and fixtures and do the installation for a lot of franchise brands
Oh
across the
wow,
country. They've relocated their headquarters to Atlanta. They knew that was coming, so they wanted to control Georgia. But yeah, trust me, we want it. Jeff, if
got
you're
it.
listening, let's talk.
That's hilarious. Here's an interesting question because some people. I know that a while back when I was trying to start businesses, especially in like my early 20s, I would hear stories, maybe like this, people crushing it and really doing epic things. And I think, man, everything just works out for them, and they just like the ball always falls their way, and the journey's got to be perfect. What was what was one of your biggest disappointments or failures that you've experienced along the path in your entrepreneurial journey? Walk me through when it was happening, what you were thinking, what you were feeling then, and then how did you wind up like overcoming it?
Yeah, great question. Also, after this, I actually would love to share that person that you're talking about. I'd love to share what I would do because it's actually is what I did to get to where, to get in to get equity in a business and stuff. I literally had this conversation with my 16-year-old son last night because we homeschool our kids. We've homeschooled our kids for 12 years. And we've got 2 that have graduated, and now we have, Quinn, who's 16, and then Augie, who's 6, that we're still homeschooling. My wife's homeschooling. Saying we is like, come on. So Quinn, his big assignment for his junior year is he's going to start a business. I'm going to have him meet with lots of different business owners, and lots of different like thought leaders in that space. And he's going to launch a business. The business has to make $5,000 by the end of the school year. So don't come to me with like, I'm going to sell t-shirts online. It's like, yeah, but you ain't going to make no money, bro. So we're not doing that. This has to be a business that's going to make money, right? So he's going to do a business plan. He's going to build a website. He's going to do logo. He's going to do cards, and it has to be, Quinn's 16. What does he want to do? He wants to be a YouTuber, right? And he's got a YouTube channel. He's got 1,800 subscribers. He's crushing it. But you're going to go out and do like a business, right? So he looked at me and he goes, Dad, if I fail at this, does this look bad? And I just laughed at him. I was like, let me tell you about the companies that I started that have failed. Let me tell you about Social Dudes. Social Dudes was a social media marketing company that I built with a guy when I used to live in Cleveland, Ohio. We literally didn't even know anything about marketing or very much about social media. It was like, that obviously failed. Started another company called Social Charge, which was, this was actually a really good idea, but you really couldn't make money off of it. Social Charge was, we did charging stations at events, right? So like I was obviously in the wireless industry. We sponsored Drake's first tour when like 11 years ago. We did an event called Bone and Drake at the lake. So Bone Thugs and Harmony, my dudes, I'm old, so I love Bone Thugs. And we did this show, and it was like right outside of Cleveland Browns Stadium, right on the lake. We got rained out, so we had to redo the event. But anyways, we brought all these mobile charging stations, and people would come charge their phones. We're like, man, we should do this at all events. Now you see them at events, but there's really no way to make money off of it. So we did that. And we failed at them, but like I was like, it literally just bounced off of me. I didn't care. The one that really stung was my partner Mitch and I. We were doing really well in the Verizon space, and the repair industry started to become hot, right? Cell phone repair. So we wanted to open up our own brands. We don't want to be a franchise. We want to do our own thing. So we started up our own organization called Phone Surgeons, or not Phone Surgeons. I don't even remember what it was called. And yeah, it failed. We actually brought in an investor. We actually ended up opening some stores with CPR. So we did end up going the franchise route. We opened up some stores with CPR. We brought an investor. We brought in an operator that he just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to own and operate stores, and we didn't support him properly. So who's that on? That's on us, right? But it failed, and the investor obviously came to us and was like, hey, I want my money. And he's an experienced investor, so he had really good contracts and agreements wrote up. Mitch and I didn't get a lawyer to look at the agreement before we signed the agreement. So we got the literal punch knockdown. We lost $300,000 in that deal. And so when you get knocked down, you either stay down and you like, well, I'm not getting back in that fight again because that sucked, right? Or you get up and you get back in the fight. And that's what we did. We got back up and we got in the fight. We learned from getting our ass kicked, right? Like, you got to block that punch. You know what I mean? Like, wax on. So we were better prepared in business going forward, right? If we're doing a big agreement, man, we're going to have a lawyer. We're going to pay a lawyer to look at it, right? We hate spending money on lawyers, but man, you get a good one and they do their job. So that was definitely the lesson that we learned was, you are going to get knocked down. You're going to get put on the floor. Everybody does it. Mike Tyson got knocked out. All of the best fighters get knocked down. But what are you going to do on the other side of it is what's important. So.
Wow. Interesting. And how does, I got this question recently. Someone goes, how do you know when to get out, when it's not working? Right.
Yeah.
And close up shop.
Great.
And
man,
I have an interesting perspective
this,
about
you
that.
ask good questions. Like, I'm not kidding.
Just
I'm not
like the
kidding.
natural ones that pop up.
Yeah. The great story on this one too. So we had our portfolio of Verizon stores, and we had some that were losing money. And we're like, oh, what's the first people think of? It's like, oh, we'll sell it. And I'm like, well, we're the only ones that buy the crap, so nobody else is going to buy this, right? We're the ones that buy the crap and turn it into good stuff. So we made the decision to close the store and pay out the lease, like the 9 months of the lease, right? Like we negotiated the lease. And dude, so we were so emotional about it because it was like, we're losing this store, like we lost. And I remember at church, I run into, at that time, it was a guy that was the CFO of Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. I was in some groups with him, and he's like, "How are things going?" And I didn't want to tell him, but God was just like, "Say it." And I was like, "Honestly, dude, we just closed this store, and we feel really bad about it. Blah blah blah. I feel like a failure." And he was like, "A failure?" He goes, "You just made a great business decision. Great businesses close stuff that don't make money, and you did that." And I was like, if this dude's telling me that I made the right decision, and it
Wow.
empowered me to not look at things through an emotional lens. I you know, we have had to close Verizon stores. I think we closed 2 or 3 of the Verizon stores that we had over time. But the most important part is the people. I always say people over profits, right? And I was able to move those people into other jobs, right? So closing the store didn't impact my people, right? The only people it actually impacted was Mitch and I. It cost us money, right? But you just got to win way more than you lose, you know? So yeah.
Wow. It's man, what an interesting story. What a powerful reframe, right? I
Yep.
feel like reframes are so key. Um, yeah, very interesting. Cool, man. Well, I know we're coming up here on time. I appreciate the conversation. I really enjoyed it. Super inspiring. I learned a lot. For anyone who wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that?
So look me up on socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn is where I'm at. Just Alex Yader. I always say there is another Alex Shader. He's 18 years old. He's in New Orleans. If you message him, he'll actually just direct you to me because we're buddies. Because I'm like, hey, you're Alex Shader. I'm Alex Shader, and we talk to each other. So yeah, I would love to, talk about franchising, buying businesses, selling your business, anything like that. I am I'm a big proponent of just have the conversation. If you're interested in franchising, you got the guy to talk to here. He's going to be wise counsel for you. And I want to share what I was going to say to the 20
Yes.
to 30-year-old that, or even older, that's like, I want to own a business. I want to do this or that, but I have nothing. I have no money. Right. Well, if you look around around you, there are restaurants, franchises, whatever it is, that they are just doing okay. And if you could come in and say, hey, I want to come in, you own 3 crumble cookies. I want to come in and I want to take over the operations of the crumble cookies and earn equity. I want to earn the equity, right? And
Hmm.
earning and you're going to have to come in and work, right? You're going to have to come in and do the work. Obviously you'll still get paid money, but just grow the enterprise value, right? Increase the sales, decrease the operational costs, grow that top line sales number, grow that net profit number, and become valuable. Even if you grow the value, there's a bigger need for those people than there is for than there's more of them out there than there are, potential franchise opportunities. Those opportunities are out there like crazy, right?
Hmm.
Where you have people that own a franchise, they own a great territory with a great franchise, but they don't have the time to put into it to grow it, right? Maybe they work a job. They're that person that is an executive that has a great job and they bought this great territory. And if the right operator came in and poured gasoline on what they were building, so you could bring a lot of value there. And I would, closed mouth don't get fed. Scared money don't make money. So just go ask, right? You just got to go
Hmm.
ask. You got to go sit down and have those conversations.
I love it. Yeah, I wish I would have known that early on because I remember being 19 years old, looking at franchises at the time. going to Tropical Smoothie every day on my lunch break when I worked at the bank, seeing this young guy who owned it, thinking, "Man, I'd love to own one of these
Yeah.
things, but I got no money."
Yeah.
And I just didn't. I wasn't aware at that time to do things like that. But yeah, there is an opportunity, whether someone's young or even my age or whatever. Like be resourceful. So
Yep. Everything that I'm an owner in, I've put zero money in.
wow,
I've been the vision for the majority of it, and I'm the operator. I put the teams together, that kind of stuff. When Mitch brought me out, Mitch had opened up the first couple of stores with borrowing money from grandpa and credit card debt, right? And then we grew through acquisitions. We grew through borrowing money from the bank, right? But obviously the stuff that I'm doing, now the stuff that Mitch and I are doing, that's from the proceeds of stuff that we sold from businesses, right? But we're not dipping into our own pockets, right? It's the businesses that have been funding this stuff. So absolutely, you can provide value, right? And with YouTube University, with Google, with podcasts, like you can learn anything. Go follow the Cody Sanchez's and the Alex Hormozzi's out there, and just get a high level education from them. And there's just so much access to information anymore, that work ethic and access to information can take you to places.
100%. Cool, man. Alex, thanks so much for coming on, man. And yeah, look forward to catching up again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, before we go, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. And the biggest thank you that you could ever give me is to share this episode with someone who you think will benefit. That means that we can share this message with more people and hopefully positively inspire them like we have you. So thank you. And until next time, go build your empire.